So the main thing that's needed is money that would help make other things. Like there's a lot of things that need to be solved, but money is the biggest restraint that's adding a lot of pressure. Also, just living under the constant inability to relax into knowing that you are safe, feeling guilt, right? So first off, can you let yourself off the hook for all the ways that you feel like you're falling short as a person? Can you just love yourself as you are now? Give yourself compassion and grace and understanding and acknowledgement for how well you're doing with what you have to work with. How does that feel? Breathe that in. Let's let that stay a little longer. Let's let it start to adopt as the new norm, because part of that regulated nervous system isn't just the circumstances being different. It's you vibrating at a different frequency that brings different circumstances. Right. And so this is part of why the Warrior 44 is such a big deal, is because if you approached it like this, and this is the feminine way of creation, and I don't mean the woman way, I mean the feminine energies of the cosmos, this is the way they create. And both masculine and feminine create in different ways. Masculine's like, I'm going to get it, let's go. And the feminine's like, and they get into this state and it just comes, right? It's like this magnet, right?
Yeah.
And it's very much like sperm and an egg. So think of the feminine energy and the masculine energy as the sperm and the egg in the baby creation. The sperm's like, there can be only one, right? Like, and only one, right? And the egg's like, I don't need to go anywhere or do anything. I just chill right here and it all just happens. Right. And so
Yeah.
we're looking as we first, if you look at the word integrity, integrity means to be aligned with one's true nature. And then if we observe the universe and how things work, we can observe that like begets like a dog produces dogs and a cat produces cats and peaches produce peaches, meaning peaches have a peach pit that becomes a peach tree that becomes peaches with peach pits. Like peaches don't produce apples and dogs don't produce cats. Like always like begets like. In order for things to exist, they have to have been created. If they were created, they had to have been created by some creative source. If they were created by some creative source, whether, some people will say that's a man, some people say that's a woman, some people would say it's an it. I don't care what you call it. But there's something out there that's a creative source that created, otherwise there's nothing that exists. But if it created, then all that it creates is also a creator, because like begets like. So whatever creative source created apples produces apples with apple seeds that create apples with apple seed. That apple tree is a creator. That apple is a creator. That apple seed is a creator. And so is a dog, and so is a cat, and so is grass, and so are you. And so if you're a creator, then in order to be in integrity, it means to be aligned with your highest nature, then you need to be creating. And there's infinite things that you could be creating. Like right now, you create more babies. You probably don't want to, but you could. You create more drama. Probably don't want to, but you could. Right? You create more pain, or create more money, more joy, more peace, more love. Right? So now when we're looking at manifestation, there's the masculine aspects of forming a plan, using some rhyme and reason. That's like the banks to the river. It's like, I have all this creative life force energy that, by the way, is very, if you were to define creator and creative life force energy, or God and creative life force energy, they'd be pretty synergistic. And so there's a certain amount of life force energy that flows through you every day. And you're the one that's choosing where you're focusing and channeling that energy. And you're the one choosing how much you're fueling that life force energy and how much you're spending that life force energy. So right now, I'm doing semen retention. I don't know who's heard of that or who hasn't. Just not ejaculating or orgasming to do an inner practice of self-mastery as well as gather energy and charge up rather than discharge. Not because right or wrong, because that's what I feel called to do right now. Right. And so I'm being very intentional on where does my energy go? Am I fueling it towards drama? Am I going to react to that thing? And instead of being the alchemist that changes the lead to gold, or the lemons to lemonade, or the coal to diamonds? Or am I going to just react and have another war? Right. So being very intentional, like, oh, that person is reacting this way. I can join them in the victim, villain, hero and play out a timeline where we do war. Or I can take a breath, go meditate, take space, get myself in center, speak the true, and have this turn into something beautiful instead of something ugly. That's how the alchemy happens. When we stop reacting and we start responding from our center, from our higher self, from our Atma, rather than our lower heart, lower mind. So now let's bring this back to your money thing. The feminine side of this is for you to take notes after this call and say, what will I feel if I made, maybe 10 grand a month? That would make it so that you had a very comfortable, I don't know what that amount is for you. So if you said, if I had 10 grand a month, and you identified the states of being you believe you would feel and experience if that was the case, if you had 10 grand a month that was never going away, was always coming, how would you feel? And you're probably going to list things like, I'd feel happy, I'd feel peaceful, I'd feel free, I'd feel grateful, I'd feel alive, I'd feel hopeful, I'd feel open and relaxed and joyous, and whatever those things are. And so the homework invitation would be to document, really go into that, and then document what you believe you would feel should that become the reality. And then after you've documented that, then next step would be to commit to feeling those ways no matter what happens outside of you. That every fucking day you're going to feel that way as things are now. And that you're going to find whatever it takes that supports you in feeling that way right now as things are. If that means you spend 6 hours a day breathing and meditating and walking in nature and doing whatever the things are, baths, cold showers, whatever those things are that does it for you, journaling, praying, scriptures, whatever it is, all the things, that you're going to do whatever it takes to feel those things you believe you will feel when those things happen, when your husband shows up a certain way, when your relationship's a certain way, when the money's a certain way, like all the things that you're going to feel better when it's not that and it's something else. Identify what you're going to feel when it's what you think you want, and then commit to feeling that as it is now, and watch how everything changes. That's the feminine aspect. You with me here?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's why the warrior rite of passage is so, that's why I'm saying, okay, this is the most valuable thing I can ever offer, because if you can, like right now, the last few weeks, I'm going through one of the most challenging times I've gone through in a long time. Do I look like a man who's not in power right now? Does my energy feel like a man who's not in power right now? I'm solid. I'm driven. I'm inspired. I'm in power. I feel amazing. Why? And it's been rough. Why? Because I've been honoring the commitment I just invited you to make. For a few weeks, some shit's been really freaking rough from all kinds of angles that are outside of my control. Like 8 different angles. One of my adult daughters, my best friend and brother, things that are deeply painful for me to witness. Things my wife's going through with 12 years of chronic illness and pain and all that comes with that. And all these things. And I've been living what I'm inviting you to take on. That I choose to feel the awesomeness no matter what. And it's not I don't cover the shit with frosting and call it a cake. It's shit. The things I'm dealing with are shit. They're not cake. No matter, I can't put enough frosting on it to make it a cake. What I can do, and it ties to one, what I've said of the mind makes a horrible master and a tremendous servant. But it also ties to, I don't know exactly how to say this quote, but it's something like, instead of praying that your burden be lightened, pray that you'll have the capacity to navigate it with ease, right? Like it's like, instead of please save me from this, that doesn't empower me to be the God that I am, the king that I am, the Atma that I am. That needs me to be saved by something outside of me. That don't mean I can't call on a higher power. That don't mean that I can't turn over shit that's not mine. That, you know, there's still a place for that. A very important place. But it means like, stop waiting for someone to save me. Stop waiting for God or Jesus or the government or my wife or anybody or anything to save me. Move out of victim into creator, back to the integrity of the highest truth of who we are. And so what has it taken over the last few weeks? Saying no to way more than I normally say no to. Resisting the urge to go hustle and grind and solve it. Resisting the urge to let my mind run rampant, trying to think of solutions so that I can feel okay. Resisting the urge to react and lash out to everyone who adds something to my plate so that I have now more shit to deal with and more fallout and more chaos. Instead, going within, I get up, I meditate. I wake up in the middle of the night and my mind starts cranking and I go, nope. And I go within and I go still. And luckily, because I've been practicing the warrior rite of passage long enough, the technique that I'm asking you to do, I don't even have to do it anymore. I literally sit down, cross my legs, close my eyes, and it's an instantaneous, I'm into bliss with no technique. But that's after doing the technique for a couple of years. And then I sit here for like an hour, just like, oh my God, I'm so loved and there are no problems. Like as if I'm high on drugs or something and I haven't taken anything. It's like, and then I'm like, okay, I got this. And then I go and I take inspired action. And then it sinks in again that these things are still happening in my external world. And it starts to grip me. And I start to get all worked up and I have a knot in my stomach and I have this clenching in my solar plexus and this tightness in my neck and this steel plate on my chest. And I start to be overcome by it all. And I go, I don't play that old game. And I go back. And I just go back over and over. Now, what happens? It's not that I'm blissed the entire time. Before I get to the bliss, there's a transmutation phase that happens. But the stillness is required. And the lucky news is I did the warrior rite of passage technique that I'm inviting you to do enough that the stillness comes instantly, the stillness of the mind. It's not being fed by thoughts, because the way it works is the wiring in here goes, oh, thoughts. Oh, we got a survival situation here. If we don't solve this, we're screwed. We need a solution and then we'll feel peace. And I say, no, we need peace and then we'll know the solution. And so I veto my instinct. My instinct says survival, fight or flight response. And I veto it. I'm the king. No, we're going to peace. I said, be still, sit, be still, stay, be quiet. And the mind, after working with it for a long time, says, okay. And we go here. Now, in the beginning, I already had the thought. Well, after the thought is generated, the hypothalamus is a heart-type organ in the center of the brain. It starts pumping peptides that resonate with the thought. If the thought was a fear-based thought, a hormone or peptide is going to pump down through the blood and go down to enter the receptor sites in the cells of my body, and the fear-based response is going to happen in the body on a cellular level. Because I already had the thought, the peptide will match. And so the thought leads to the feeling leads to a new action, the action leads to a result, and the result leads to a new thought, which leads to a new feeling, that leads to a new action, that leads to a new result. Unless I interrupt at any stage of the game, then I start to become the captain of my life. Oh, I had a thought. Oh, that's a crappy feeling. I have the impulse to take this action. I already did that. It didn't work every time. Did that for 40 years. Didn't work, not once. Nope. Let me come to my high self and let's see what my high self advises me to do. Not that reactionary, unevolved, unrefined, reactionary punk ass in there. No, like let's not listen to him. Let's listen to the most highly evolved version of me. But in order to do that, I actually have to slow down and connect and find that guy. And then I know what to do. That's the Atma, right? And so in doing that, I begin to be the true creator of my life, not just in concept. We've all heard it forever. Don't be the victim, be a creator. Don't be a victim, be a victor. But how do you apply it? I'm actually now giving the skills of how do you make this real life, not just a concept. And it's that it's essentially a commitment that no matter what happens outside of me, I am no longer a reactor. I am now a responder. And I only respond from my high self, not my lower heart, not my lower mind, not my reactions, not my knee-jerk reactions, none of that. I respond, I don't react. And I only can respond when I'm in center. And when I'm in center in my divinity and my wholeness and my sovereignty at 12 o'clock, in the heart, speaking only the true truth, then my life has no choice but to always have me on my highest timeline. Instead of that becoming an argument that becomes a fight, that becomes a series of fights, that becomes a divorce, it becomes a healing. She got a fear response and I gave her love. She got healed instead of more wounding. That changes everything. Right? This is how we become the creators we were sent to be. So now let's make this even more applicable. Here's a few things that'll help. The deeper you go into the meditation, the more you recharge. When I talk about the creative life force energy, when we sleep, it's equivalent to plugging an electric car into a trickle charger. Takes like 8, 10, 12 hours to charge fully. Consistently, like every night, getting that trickle charge. But if you take that same electric car to a supercharger, you can get an 80% charge in 45 minutes. Deep meditation gives you a supercharge. It's directly equivalent to the charging an electric car. So when you're looking at creative life force energy, if you continue down this path of the warrior rite of passage and you get masterful and you start to enter those realms of the lover rite of passage and the alchemist and the Atma, and you get into these deep states where there are no problems, there are no fears, and the primary drainers of energy are your 5 senses. Every time I'm looking at something, my brain is processing a mass amount of energy and information to process what it's seeing and what it's interpreting. My thinking is consuming more me on this call, channeling and thinking and speaking and organizing how do I share what's coming through is consuming a ton of energy. Everything I hear, I subconsciously registered that the fridge turned on about 30 seconds ago. I didn't even know it till I thought about it just now, but I know it, right? And that happened without me even thinking about it. So even my hearing is consuming my energy. The sensations on my skin, so touch, smell, taste, and digesting food is consumptive of energy, right? And so just like a bank account, the more deposits we make and the less withdrawals we make, the more money we have. The same with creative life force energy. how do we have the most amount of energy being put in and the least amount of energy going out, so that there's this positive surplus that supercharges us to be able to, and then we get masterful through honoring our authentic yeses and nos, and that inspiration that comes through the meditations on where we're channeling that energy. And I did my hand gesture like this, meaning imagine I have a fire hose and I'm not containing it and it's doing this. It's dangerous. But if I actually have it and all of my creative life force energy, I've turned the valve clear on, I've got a good grip on it, and I'm choosing where I'm pointing that, you can do some pretty cool things with it. And so we get masterful through the warrior rite of passage of directing that creative life force energy. We get masterful. We own our value and worth through the lover rite of passage, and we get out of the scarcity, because whatever state of being you're creating from, it like begets like there too. If I'm creating out of scarcity, I receive scarcity. The result will be scarce. If I'm creating out of love and wholeness, the result will be love and wholeness. It'll be prosperous and abundant. And then if I'm getting into the alchemy, then it starts to feel and look and experience and act and take place through what appears to be magic. And then as I walk as my higher self, then everything always works that way, because I'm non-reactionary and I'm embodying more and more every day that Atma. As you get deeper in your meditation, the good news is when you actually charge, like the people that become masters at this meditation and these 4 rites of passage, they end up not needing any sleep at all. 0, ever. For me, when at the highest states I've reached so far, I've only needed between 2 to 4 hours of sleep when I'm dedicated to my practice. And in fact, I can't sleep more than that, and I don't even care to. I don't want to. Previously, it's like, oh my God, please give me 12 hours of sleep. I can only cope with 12 hours of life a day. Give me an escape. But then as you start to feel more and more amazing and alive and joyous and grateful, as well as more and more charged because you did the supercharger, 2 to 4 hours and you feel freaking amazing, and you can't wait to create because that's your nature. And you're creating in alignment with your passion, your purpose, your zone of genius. And so it's no longer work, it's fun. And it's the deepest fulfilling thing you could possibly do. And when it's the most fulfilling thing that you can do, it's the most valuable thing you can do. And so you make more money in less time with less effort, and you gain more energy doing it. Like I have more energy right now than when I started this call, even though I'm consuming a lot of energy. It's fueling faster than it's consuming because I'm aligned with who I am. The other thing I would invite you to do, get curious about the biggest, so your mess becomes your message. So look at all the ways you've struggled, and then look at what things have you been able to overcome to a certain degree, that there's still others who are struggling with what you used to struggle with and haven't overcome it to the degree that you have. And then look at how you can help them overcome what you've overcome and offer that. And that's the greatest value you can offer, because you came to teach what you came to learn, and your mess becomes your message. And those are some signs towards why you're here and who you are and why you're here and what your gift is.